Hi, good morning. I'm Truth Clarino, and today we have Miss Shawi Cortez, the owner of Forest or founder of Forest School Philippines, who will talk about risky play in nature. So we know that risky play is somehow related also to Forest School. So she will talk about, or she will deepen Miss Bettina Atwell's talk earlier this week about risky play. She will be answering the what, where, when, how, why questions of risky play. So I'll call now Miss Shawi Cortez to talk about more on risky play and have an introduction of what Forest School here in the Philippines. She has, before pandemic, she has a Forest School in Cavite. They hold it in Amadeo. So you're lucky if you were able to try it. And yeah, so I'll call Miss Shawi Cortez now to talk about risky play. Good morning, Miss Shawi.
Hello. Oh, there. I can see myself now. Good morning, members of the Early Childhood Education International. Thank you, Teacher Chut, for inviting me today. And thank you also, Bettina, for allowing me to talk about risky play. Well, I saw that you have already discussed risky play previously, so I'll probably just build on what you have said before. Um, I really loved what you said about how, if there's one thing that's common among kids, entrepreneurs, leaders, social disruptors, solvers, it would be their willingness to take risks. So that is such a powerful statement. And I think, we cannot stress enough how important taking risks is. That's why we want our children to, have a feel of it as young as now. So what is risky play? Risky play is when kids, of course, play, but it's them trying out new things, not knowing what will happen. It's them trying, putting themselves out there, trying to figure out the world without any prediction of what will happen. So they are making themselves comfortable with changes. So in a nutshell, that's what risky play means. And what does it look like? In Bettina's talk earlier, she mentioned the Norwegian professor Ellen Sandsetter, who mentioned that risky play is categorized into six. So there's great heights, great speed, dangerous tools, dangerous elements, unknown, and mock aggression. So let us take a closer look at what it really looks like so that when you spot your child or your student doing it, you will know that they are learning. All right. So, first, great heights. When your child climbs up your furniture, when your child climbs a tree, or when your child climbs onto you, that's an example of going great heights. The second example is great speed. So that's your child running very fast or riding a bike very fast that sometimes you feel like it's out of control, or like when she is pumping herself very high on a swing. So that's how it looks like. The third example is dangerous tools. So that's when your child uses uses dangerous tools such as knives or sharp scissors. So, for example, in the kitchen, your child wants to, slice a piece of vegetable with you. Then that's an example of a risky play because they are in contact with dangerous tools. Or like your child wants to cut a piece of paper using a very sharp scissors. Yeah. Another example, fourth, is exposure to dangerous elements. So what are these dangerous elements? So there's water, fire, and a cliff. So it's dangerous in when they play in the water, let's say on a beach or by a waterfalls, because there's a possibility of drowning. Another dangerous element is fire. So, for example, when you cook and then when they try to come nearer, there's a possibility of them getting burnt. And the third is when they are on a when you let's say when you're hiking on a cliff. So there's a possibility that the child will fall. So that's being exposed to risks. So that's for the fourth, the exposure to dangerous elements. The fifth example of risky play is the unknown, or when your child tries to hide, or being in a new place. So for example, when you're shopping in a mall, your child tries to veer off or walk away from where you're treading. So, there's a possibility of your child getting lost. Sometimes they do that because it gives them a sense of exhilaration, fun, excitement. And the last example of risky play is mock aggression. So if you've observed some kids, together with other kids, they try to push each other, but there's no intent on harming each other. They just push each other because, it's fun for them. And, it's fun because they're still laughing. So those six examples are the elements of risky play. That's how it looks like. Now, why is it important for us to know what it looks like? So the moment we identify or we spot our child doing it, then our role as adults is to support and know that your child is learning something, and that your child is figuring things out for himself. There are three ways that you can support. It's easy to remember. I like to call it the three F's. So first is, how do you support your child's willingness to take risks? First is, you allow him to fail. So if he makes a mistake, let's say cutting himself when he uses a pair of scissors, then it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. You let him fail. The second example is if he falls. So for example, he wants to try to jump from the third step of the flight of stairs towards you. If he falls and hurts himself, then it's okay. You will support that because you know that it's beneficial for your child. The third F, third support that you can show your child is frustration, or mm, another type of feeling, mad, angry. Because sometimes when they try something new and they don't get it right the first time, they feel, that they feel frustrated. But then if you let them know that it's okay, then they will just keep on they will just keep on try again. So those are the three ways that you can support your child when he takes risky play. Okay. So when you do these things, when you allow your child to fail, when you allow your child to fall, or when you allow your child to feel frustrated, it's not really a bad thing. Modernization and urbanization has changed the way we think or the way we do things, and somehow it has confined us to feeling safer indoors. And we try to protect our kids because we we also don't want to other people to think that we're neglectful as parents or as educators. But in fact, if you do not allow kids to take risks, it's more dangerous for them. Why? Because first of all, if they do not try to uh, balance and fall, then they will become clumsy. They will not be able to master their body. They don't know how their body talks to them. So there's a risk of they're more prone to injury or accidents when they're not comfortable with their own bodies. So that's the first danger when we don't allow our children to take risks. Another is that it will be difficult for them in real life. So if they cannot manage their risks during play, how much more if they face it in real life? What if they get bullied? Will they be able to stand up? Or what if they become pressured to, to get into drugs or sex? Will they be able to say no and set their boundaries? So that's why it's important to for them to take risks even during play. So third danger is when they do not take risks is it can affect their mental health when they are all the time afraid to take risks and all the time they want to be safe, then they will be fearful all their lives. It translates to phobia and anxiety. So so you see there's a huge role of the parents and the educators when supporting the kids risky play. The kids crave for it. They really do not want they do it not because they want to put themselves in danger, but it's just an innate nature that they want to experience and explore their world. And whenever we try to keep them very safe, overprotect them, what they really hear is that uh, you're not capable. So it undermines their independence. What they hear is that the world is too dangerous. So they do not try. They also hear that you always need me, your parent, or your teacher to navigate this world. So it undermines their independence. When we do that, when we try to stop them, when we try to say, oh no, you might fall, what it does is that we are subconsciously planting fear in their minds. And I think that's more dangerous than, just allowing them to take risks. So, how do we incorporate risks in or what are actionable steps that we can do? Okay, I will give you three easy steps where you can encourage and support your child's inclination, desire to take risks through play. So, first of all, is that when you see your child taking risks, try to step back. There's a 17-second rule that says when you see your child doing something uh, dangerous, instead of opening your mouth, trying to stop him, or instead of saying, be careful, just like what Bettina mentioned earlier, what you can do is to step back, observe your child, try to zip your mouth. Do not say anything that will stop your child from learning and taking risks. And just allow your child to explore. When when he knows you are at peace with him doing it, then he will have more courage to do it, to explore the world. So that's first. Uh, Step back. Do not say anything. Do not try to hold or grab your child yet. Second is that to inform the other members of your family, to inform your other care minders if you have nannies or other family members of your desire to help your child, um, so that you're always in the same boat and that it doesn't confuse your child. So that's the second thing. And third is I think which you've already touched on in previous discussions, to go out in nature. Because, outdoors, outside, it's the best place for your child to get into risky play just because of the huge space that's available, and that the terrain in nature or in forest really supports their craving to try out new things. So that said, that leads me now to talking about forest school. So when you're out in nature, then that's where the concept of forest school comes in. What is forest school? I'd like to give you a short introduction on what forest school is. So, forest school is an approach to learning that takes place ideal in the forest, but it can be any form of nature, where your children takes charge of his learning through unstructured, free, and risky play. So in the UK, where I got my training from, there are six principles that, or like six pillars of a good forest school. So, how do you know if your child is in a forest school? If these six principles are present, okay? First of all, it happens out in the forest or in nature. So, why does it happen in nature? First of all, there's a concept or a theory called biophilia, which means bio life, philia is love. So there's a love of living things. By nature, we as human beings, we are drawn to other to nature. Don't I mean observe yourself. Don't you feel calm and less stressed when you're outdoors? When, even if you're just looking outside and then you spot a tree, or you look at the clouds, or you hear birds chirping, somehow it calms you. So it has the same effect on your children compared to being indoors. When they're out in the forest, when they're out in nature, it's a calm place for them and it's conducive to learning. As I mentioned earlier, also when you're outdoors in nature, nature provides a huge space for your child to play in, and there are, stumps, there are rocks that provide challenges for your kids. What else? When out in nature, nature provides the natural resources or the loose materials that your child can use in playing. And when they play with loose materials, then it helps foster your child's imagination and creativity. So that's the first principle. It's out in nature. Second is it's long term. So forest school is not a one-time big time event where you send your child, oh, okay, I will send my child one session to forest school, and then expect that your child will become resilient already or independent already. It doesn't work that way. So in the same way that your child develops and it takes time, so the benefits you get from forest school also takes time. It's not just one session, it's a series of, well, at least 12 sessions. And also, it happens through different types of weather, whether rain or shine, then the forest school still continues. So there's a second principle, long term. Third principle is that it's learner led. What it means is that the focus is on the child, not on what the teacher will teach, but on how your child will learn. So, what are the theories that support this? So, there's Bruner's discovery learning, and also there's the inquiry based learning. It's recognizing that, first of all, your child is a competent and capable learner, and he learns by receiving the knowledge from the world around him by taking the initiative, by taking active part in his learning. So, because when a child is interested in something, then it sticks. I mean, I think the lesson sticks more than when someone tells it to him. So in forest school, that's how we allow the kids to learn. There are no lessons, but we just provide the space for the child to find something that interests him and to experience it through his or her senses. So that's learner led, principle number 3. The fourth principle is holistic development. So Forest School provides experiences and opportunities that will uh, that focuses on the development of your child, not only the intellect. So it sees and it impacts the child as a whole person. So there's physical development. You know, when you're outdoors, the possibilities are endless. There's huge space for running. So your child develops muscle strength, coordination, balance, motor skills, lungs, and even when they're outdoors, they have a decreased chance of nearsightedness, which is helpful because kids nowadays are always in front of screens or in gadgets. Okay, so physical, what else? Intellectual. So when they're moving about and when they're using their senses to explore and experience their learning, what it does is that the it wires the lessons in their brain. So they grasp concepts better when the entire body is involved. So when they see it, they hear it, they smell it, sometimes they even taste it or touch it. Okay, so that's the intellectual development. Language. Your child's language development is supported in forest school because with other classmates or with other playmates together with them, then there's an opportunity to increase their vocabulary, to express what they want, to express their thoughts and their feelings. And also for early child years, the sounds that they hear in nature helps them with developing like their sound recognition for the words. So that helps in the language development. What else? Emotional development. As I have mentioned earlier, when your kids are outdoors and they're taking risks, it's not fun all the time. Sometimes they will feel frustrated, they will be mad, they will be sad, and all those feelings, it's okay for them to experience while they're in school. And we provide a safe space for them to experience this. There's no judging. It's just, a warm place for them to experience and to regulate their emotions. Okay. What else? Social development. So in terms of social development, the Forest School accepts kids in mixed ages. So it's not just for example, it's not just 4 to 5s. So sometimes the ages range from 3 to 12. So sometimes we have kids who are 5 years old, and then they have classmates who are 8 years old. But then it's okay because their social skills are developed. So they learn negotiation when they're playing. They learn cooperation, teamwork, and sometimes even setting boundaries. Okay, and lastly, the spiritual development is not in the sense of religion, but just in the sense of being or recognizing their sense of place in the world. So, so for a school, um, has an impact on your child's holistic development. Okay, so that's the fourth principle. The fifth principle is what we've already talked about earlier. So, Forest School promotes risky play. We recognize it that we recognize risky play as a way for your child to learn the essential skills that he needs in life. And finally, forest school is being led by a qualified forest school leader. So I am a level 3 forest school leader, and I got my accreditation from the UK. So it means that the services that we provide is the same as when you're going or as when you're sending your child internationally, when you send your child in Denmark or in the UK or in Singapore. Okay. Our role as forest school leaders are not teachers, but we are coaches where we witness your child experiencing the world and taking charge of his own learning. So we are familiar with the pedagogies to support your child's learning. We ensure that your child is in a safe place physically and emotionally. And we also have skills like we have to learn outdoor skills, how to tie a knot, how to set up camp, how to set up a fire. We also do risk benefit assessments to make sure that your child is safe whenever they take risks. We also conduct environmental impact assessments to make sure that the space, that the forest is still sustainable even if we go back to the same place all over again. So those are the six principles of forest school. And when you combine all of these together, when you combine the six principles, your child being in charge of the learning, you're out in nature, you do it regularly, and that you support the holistic development of your child, what you have in turn is a resolute, responsible, reflective, resourceful individual. Okay. So they will know, your child will know what he wants. He will be able to think for himself, speak his mind, keep on getting up every time he makes a mistake, and then he will be able to overcome distractions and difficulties and find different ways to solve problems. In other words, your child will be able to learn how to learn, and when he masters this skill, then the academics side of learning will just be easy. All right. So I want to end by sharing. Well, of course, right now, the forest school sessions are suspended here in the Philippines because of, well, COVID. But it should not stop you from practicing the philosophy of forest schools. So you just go back to the six principles. So first of all, nature. Do you have access to nature? If you don't have a park or a forest nearby, even a even garden is okay as long as you take your kids outside. And what else? uh Schedule it. If you cannot go out every single day, probably a weekly schedule of going out is uh is better than nothing. Okay. And then when you go out to nature, try not to academicize everything. So let your child play, because I'm sure as early child educators, that your children learn through play. And just provide a safe space for your child. You know, there's a phrase that we go by. It says, hands behind back and lips sealed. So try to step back whenever your child does something risky, knowing that you're knowing that he is developing and he's learning something and he's being courageous for himself, so that he grows into a confident, independent, resilient child. So that's it. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you around. In case, you can message me, um, or visit our social media, Forest School PH. It's in Instagram and in Facebook. Thank you, Teacher Chut, and thank you, Bettina.
All right. Thank you, Miss Shawi. What an insightful morning for all of us. So, just to sum up what Miss Shawi Cortez of Forest School Philippines mentioned, um, we have to enforce, or not enforce. We have to encourage children to explore nature, and encourage parents to do or to observe risky play because kids are testing out their environment and they are determining what they're comfortable with. And it's very important to let the children learn that they have to get up on their own. They need to solve challenges because after all these experiences that we let them or what nature provides, everything else will follow. And just like what Brusoni said, when we have kids engaged in play, it's really a fundamental way for them to figure out the world, how the world works, and how their body works. So thank you again, Ms. Shawi, for enlightening us about risky play and forest school. Have a happy weekend, everyone, and I hope you have time to go out and enjoy nature with your children. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone.